I have a number of questions about this. On the second page of the letter from the auditor addressed to the board, it talks about the treasurer's reconciliation not being done in time. And I'm wondering if we could have an explanation for that.
Sure. If you read the entire paragraph, let me get there. In time for their field work in late July. Well, as you know, I run checks dated June, the second week of July. So really, the books aren't closed and the final checks aren't issued until the second week of July. I believe it was July 27th when the auditors arrived for their field work last year. So the June reconciliation wasn't available when they arrived. They had it when they left or shortly afterwards. So quite frankly, I was surprised when this was in there, and I checked with them, but you have to understand the very tight time frame between the final June numbers and when they arrived. And this year we started a little later. We started August 1st, which was by the calendar the next week. And I'm not even sure that that's enough time. We might have to push them out more just to cover things like this. You know, it's tough to end something one week and be ready for audit in a week or two. So,
Mrs.
you
Sherman.
know, those timeframes have to
Sorry.
be recognized.
Mrs. Sherman.
So just for our listening public, so that they know that the last sentence in that paragraph said, "It is noted that in the subsequent period, this condition has been corrected."
Mhm.
So it was corrected. I'm kind of surprised they even
Yeah.
pointed it out and then said, "Oops, you fixed it, thanks, it's all set, it's fixed."
We don't actually know that it's fixed because we know that it was fixed in one subsequent period. I would like to read the entire paragraph from the auditor's letter. During our review of the treasurer's records, specifically the cash account reconciliations, it was noted that the June reconciliation was not available at the time of our field work in late July. By not preparing timely monthly reconciliations, errors could go undetected and an inaccurate balance could be reported. We recommend that the treasurer reconcile the cash account in a timely manner and all differences between carrying and bank balances be investigated so that errors and adjustments can be quickly identified and corrected. It is noted that in the subsequent period, this condition has been corrected. What is the treasurer's practice with reconciling the cash and the bank balances? When is it normally completed?
Well, not within a week or two of my final check run, I can assure you of that, but it's done in a timely manner.
Well,
I believe this says that it was late. It doesn't say they didn't get it.
It said it was not available at the time of our field work, and in their opinion, obviously, that isn't timely, because otherwise they wouldn't have been reporting it.
If I may.
Well, I explained the timeline.
Mrs. Eversedy.
I just wanted to state that in the paragraph, there is a conclusion sentence that has been read twice now. I'm just going to read it again. It is noted that in the subsequent period, this condition has been corrected.
Yeah.
And that's the concluding sentence of that
I believe
paragraph.
we've got an explanation, and I believe that the auditors have noted that it was corrected as well, so.
Okay.
Are there any questions or any on other sections?
Yes, I have other sections.
Mrs. Green.
The next section says, adjusting journal entries, and I'll read this in its entirety. During our review of the controls in place over adjusting journal entries, we noted that no approval is required for an adjusting entry to be made, and no formal review is documented of adjustments that have been made. In order to provide greater control over the accuracy of the school administrative unit's financial reporting and greater security over its general ledger, we recommend all adjusting entries made by the business administrator be reviewed for appropriateness and signed by a member of management other than the individual responsible for making the entry. That is eminently good a recommendation. So what have we done to comply with that recommendation?
Mr. Dowd and I are signing off on each other's journal entries. We're the only two people that make journal entries. Nobody else does.
So Are you Mr. Dowd's boss?
Yes.
So Mr. Dowd is signing off on his boss's journal entries? I don't
Well,
think that's a good
I
idea.
guess I would pose the question, who else would really be qualified to understand our financial journal entry?
It certainly seems to me someone who is not a subordinate of yours should be signing off on your journal entries.
So let me just ask for clarification, Mr. Stokinger. Our accounting and finance folks within the SAU who have the most knowledge of financial operations, do they all work for you?
Yes.
Right. So it wouldn't be possible without creating some independent, separate position and separate reporting structure. If I understand correctly.
Hypothetically, I could ask the
hire-
special ed director to sign off on it, but
Well, I mean, I
wouldn't want to
suppose.
sign off on an IEP. That's
Look,
not my expertise.
Look, in large organizations, they do employ an internal auditor as a separate person, but I don't want to put words in Mrs. Green's mouth, because I don't know that she's saying that we should hire a new person to fulfill that role, and I certainly don't want to put words in her mouth, but I just wanted to make clear that within the scope of people, our finance and accounting people, that team works for you. It's not possible to designate one that doesn't work for you to sign off on these. That's all I wanted to, just to make clear on that. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yes?
Mrs. Green?
The next paragraph in this letter is compensatory time. We noted that employees of the SAU can earn compensatory time for working weekends and holidays, and that this time can be used as paid leave at a later date, or is paid out upon an employee leaving the SAU. However, there is no formal policy adopted by the SAU board that addresses the earning, use, and payout of this time. We recommend the board adopt such a policy in order to ensure the accrual and use of this time is treated identically, and to protect the SAU from any unforeseen liabilities that might arise from the payment of compensation for which there are no documented procedures. So what are we going to do about that?
Can I ask a question? Within this paragraph of this recommendation, it is using the terms policy and procedures interchangeably. So are they looking for a policy or are they looking for a procedure?
Both.
I mean,
Mr. Stokinger, if I could get your thoughts on that paragraph.
Well, I think they're looking for some documentation. Right now, there is none.
Okay.
okay.
Mr. Beal?
So I guess, my take on that paragraph is that the recommendation is that we have a policy, which is on the board. It's not on Mr. Stokinger to do. So maybe perhaps that's something we would consider in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not willing to make a motion on that right now, but
No, I think we can make note of it and we can add it, potentially to a future agenda. And if it's the will of the board, we'll set up a policy. Mr. Guy?
I would assume you have a procedure, though, in place of what it is, so that your employees know how much earned time they have and how much they can gain and how much they can use.
We have a system we clock into, if
Okay.
you will,
Yep.
that tracks it.
And tracks it.
Okay.
We have a mechanism for it.
Okay. All right.
I'd
Mrs.
like
Green?
to make a motion that we create a policy and a procedure on compensatory time for SAU employees.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? Seconded by Mrs. Stube.
Discussion?
Yep.
We do not make procedures as a board,
Mhm.
so procedures would be out of the purview of the board.
Okay.
So I would make a motion to amend the motion
Okay.
to state that the SAU board comes up with a policy to outline the compensatory time.
I'd second that.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Mrs. Sherman.
give it to Mr. Sherman.
I know
Okay.
my place.
All right. This is discussion on the amendment only, and the amendment is that the board develop a policy to remove procedure from the original motion. Mr. Sapia?
I think it's a great idea, and I think Peter Buell
Draw it up.
should draft up the policy
I
for our
agree.
review at the next
I
meeting.
totally agree with that.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Mrs. Green?
There is no provision in law that prohibits us from writing
Hmm.
procedures.
You're correct. And that said, there is an amendment on the floor. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, this is on the amendment only. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, I think that's, I didn't see, it looked like there are no extensions.
So,
So that, the amendment passes, okay, so the motion on the floor now is as amended, that the board will develop a policy on compensatory, excuse me. Mr. Sapia.
am I looking at this, then thinking about this the wrong way? Don't we need the policy before the procedure could be put together?
You're correct. The board would have to develop the policy.
Yep.
Yep.
You just stop there.
Uh-huh. Is there any further discussion?
Do good work, Peter.
Seeing as there's no further discussion, this is on the motion to develop a compensatory time policy. All those in favor? All those opposed? And no abstentions. So there was one